Hey, and welcome back to Hot Shots. I figured for the fourth episode, we are going to spice it up a little bit, and I was going to record this. Welcome to my home. This is my living room, my office, and where I work, and where I write all of your newsletters from, and your emails, and do all my packaging, and this, that, and the other. And I kind of figured, let's make it a little bit more personal. And seeing that this is what I do when I teach my students, I might as well try it. Can't promise I'm going to do this all the time, but today, I guess you could file this under the fell cute and might delete later. I won't delete it, but I cannot promise that this is going to be a regular thing. Again, this is unedited. I'm just fucking winging it. There will be swearing, and all opinions are mine. Not that I have any corporate sponsors to, say sorry to if things get a little out of line. But you know what I'm saying. Like this, do take this with a grain of salt. Do comment. Do whatever you got to do. And I've got my nice cup of tea to keep me company here today. And that's most dreadful of the winter days. And yeah, let's get right to it. I think the biggest talking point. I've got my notes here too, in case you hear paper ruffling and all of that. I think the big one this week is obviously this whole potential threat for war in the Ukraine between NATO and Russia. That's the big one, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time on that one. There's a couple other ones which I've been screenshotting all week, which I've either made me laugh or I thought they were worthwhile talking about. Some are good, some are bad. Some involve the usual bullshit that I would share, and some don't. And there's maybe some new stuff on there. So where to start with Ukraine? Like I said last week, I don't think either parties are going to go to war. I just don't see it happening. It's got that that whole story is so fucking big and multifaceted that you can't. There is no real black and white, no binary answer to okay, well this is happening, so this, and then this is happening because of that. No, this it's not. It's a relatively complex issue, and like so many things that determine our life and determine the narrative that we have or that we experience, I find it hugely important and relevant to always come back to that same adage which says follow the money. Like, let's talk about cash. Let's talk about the potential reasons for the events that are taking place. And there's a lot of them, and I'm certainly not going to give you a history lesson, or I'm not going to start one here because that would take hours and hours and hours. It would take years, as a matter of fact. But long story short, I think no matter where you are, whether or not you're here in Europe or if you're in the U.S., or even South America or Asia, where some of you readers are from, it's pretty safe to say that the impending possibility of the impeding possibility of this event taking place is on your airwaves. Like, everybody's fucking talking about it. War sells papers. Sadly, it's human suffering and war being the biggest thing in that sells papers, and that's why we're fucking talking about it. And to be perfectly clear, again, as a disclaimer, I know I said this last week, entirely anti-war, just no, absolutely fucking not. Secondly, not pro-Russia, no pro the US, definitely not pro-NATO, definitely not pro-Putin, and also not pro the fascist elements in the Ukraine. It's a multifaceted discussion with so many unclarities for people like us who aren't actually there. That's a thing. Like, we're not there, so we kind of have to rely on information whose motivation to tell us said stories is always at least up for question, and I find most of them quite questionable. Case in point, I read this first hot shot saved on the fucking phone. The U.S. Institute for Peace, right? So they have this institute. It's for peaceful research and how to increase peace and this, that, and the other. The dude in charge of it is also the CEO for Raytheon, one of the biggest arms manufacturers. Sources, motivation, purpose. War sells papers. War sells ammunition. Oof, you gotta again question every aspect sort of where you read even this shit here, what I'm doing. War on a nation scale level, and I don't remember where this quote comes from, but it's always stuck with me. War essentially is theft on a large scale. Nation A invades Nation B because A, resources, power, wealth. Whether that's the motivation behind Putin's current moves, possibly, maybe. I wouldn't want to sort of say yes, definitely. You always have to take into consideration NATO's moves past 1991. I mean, if any of you guys remember, once the Cold War ended and the Soviet Union dissipated, there was an agreement between NATO, specifically the US, Great Britain, France, and Russia, that said that there was not going to be an eastward expansion past East Germany, or then unified Germany, which obviously, we, like what we do in the West, like, well, fuck you guys, we're still going to do it, and then the EU and NATO moved all the way to Russia's border. So there's that, and then there's the historic precedence of Western European nations invading Russia, for the last 400 years. It's a thing. We've done it, and that needs to be taken into consideration when we talk about these events currently. And again, it's such a big, multifaceted historical debate that try to keep it calm. Long story short, I don't think this is going to happen. I think it's a wonderful distraction for a lot of Western leaders, Biden, Boris Johnson, and even the people here in Germany, even though they're keeping a little quiet as per usual, to deflect from all the failures on national policies. Obviously, in England, we have these huge scandals around Boris Johnson and the Tory party after 10 years of corruption and scandals and scandals and scandals, and that little prick of a person needing to step down. So it's having a national crisis, whether or not it's real or not, helps. In regards to the U.S., again, I don't live there. I can only read the news and speak to my friends over there. But let's say it for what it is. Like, Biden is doing what he has always done in office: be as a fucking Republican as humanly possible. Case in point of the wall still being built, police budgets being increased, immigration being the same shit as under Trump, as under Obama, as under fucking Clinton, under Bush, and so on. Same side of the same coin. Long story short, his work isn't popular because he's not doing what needs to be done. Same with France, same with Italy, Spain, Germany, all of Europe mostly. And these crises, these wars, help. As horrible as that sounds, like, it's really cynical. I know that. Like, it's not nice. A war is a horrible, horrible business. I know a little bit about it, but won't really get into detail for those. It's hell. It's hell on earth, and it's not cool. And I think let's say call it this community, our standpoint should always be anti-war from flat out. That's where I start. War is not a thing that we want or need at all. And again, the only people benefiting from war are, politicians and their masters, people who make money, selling ammunitions to both sides of the fucking fence, and so on. And there was another tweet from Reuters, actually, that popped up yesterday, I think the day before, Monday. Super quiet in between the news cycles, blah, 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 where it basically confirmed that the US government is already in talks with European governments to supply energy, and this is what a lot of this is about, to Europe should Russia invade the Ukraine. Now, why is that about? A lot of the natural gas that Russia produces, flows through the Ukraine into Western and Central Europe. Obviously, should there be a war or should there be a crisis of war, the energy demands of the productive countries such as Germany, France, England, and so on will be disrupted. And lo and behold, 2 years after the U.S. has been, I think my screen just went out. I'm not entirely sure if that happened or not. We'll see. Well, 2 years after, Germany and Russia have been essentially building a pipeline to supervene Ukraine. The U.S. has been protesting and saying, hey, you can't deal with Russia directly and leave the Ukraine out because a lot of U.S. business interest is in the Ukraine. and they've been trying to boycott that. All of a sudden, we're talking about and supplying fracking gas from the U.S. to Europe, which whatever, it seems so. You know what it seems like? It seems like it's so shallow, and it is. It's just about money, and that's the sad and depressing part about it. Because war and all these crises impede people's lives on a huge personal level. That is not cool. And again, it's just profit over humans, and that's kind of where I'm at with that whole scenario. There is so much chitter chatter online, of course, by people who really don't have anything to say in the matter, myself included, I guess, about all of this and all the potential realities and this, that, and the other. I think, ending point on all that is just that it's not going to happen. It's about cash, it's about money, it's about infrastructure. And they're using the pretext of war and the misuse of the propaganda machines to divert from national political crises. That's kind of the thing. Ending on that one, there's some funny ones that I picked up this week, which did make me laugh, right? Okay, the good news. I think I'm going to start with the good news. As you know, Cuba. I did this story on the Cuban Vietnamese response to COVID a couple of days ago or last week at some point, which was super fun to do. The news hit today that despite the blockade of Cuba by the U.S., they've obviously developed their own vaccine, which seems to be, with all the clinical trials that have been going on, it seems to be extremely effective and good at what it's supposed to be doing. And their National Health Service just released a statement that they're now shipping off, I think it was 200,000 or even 2 million doses to other countries in the global south, saying, hey, you can have these for free. They're not even selling them, which is wonderful. It's great news. One of the main tools in ending this fucking pandemic is vaccinating everyone, not just us, everyone. And Cuba's doing that, which is really cool. So that's good news. I like that part. The other thing I picked up on Twitter, I'm sorry, I'm playing with my pen. It's what I do when I speak. Pencil, not pen. The other super random thing that I came across yesterday, again, I don't want to talk about NFTs and that whole thing any more than I already did. It does dominate my airwaves for whatever fucking reason. And there was this really weird clip on, I think it was Twitter, with Paris Hilton, who I thought was dead, but cool, she's back, I guess. And I think it was Jimmy Fallon. I don't know who that person is. I don't really watch that kind of TV, but it was just so weird. And I'm sure you saw it. If you haven't seen it, Google it online. It's just literally the embodiment of a scam. It's so fake and so off. It blew my mind. It's like a 10-second clip. I looked at it and just went, Jesus, what in the fuck is that all about? If that doesn't embody the insanity of all this, then I don't, spam my ass and call me Charlie for all I care. So that was a weird one. Coming back to Cuba, actually, and this is another hilarious thing. I'm sure some of you have picked this up. Over the last couple of years, the CIA and the U.S. State Department have been complaining and receiving complaints from people who work at the U.S. embassies about this thing that they coined the Havana syndrome, right? So people complaining about headaches, not being able to work, blah, 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 blah. And, the CIA floated through international media this idea that Cuba, blockade, not whatever, in Havana around the world was sending radio waves to U.S. embassies and saying, hey, to distract the work from U.S. officials. Turns out that was bullshit. Surprise! Again, there's a big book of CIA bullshit. It turns out that was bullshit. That wasn't true. After, obviously, the U.S. government passed the defense bill, which did include an extra $30 million to treat said Havana syndrome. That's your fucking tax money going to work. The same shit happens here too, but it's just on a scale over there. Sheesh. That's the thing. The other one that kind of did piss me off as well, there was two other ones that pissed me off, and both, one took place on a global scale. The UN recently had a vote to declare food a human right, universal law, saying, hey, this food should just be a human right. That's a thing. And my screen keeps going off. I don't know if it's going to affect this video, but we'll see about that. Anyway, UN vote making food a human right. Obviously, that would bind nations to supply food and rethink the entire capitalistic food production pyramid. 2 votes against it. U.S. and Israel. 2 abstained, or 3 abstained, or didn't vote, and the rest of the world went, yeah, fuck yeah, we should make food a human right. Food's a big one. I wrote about this in the newsletter.com, came out on Wednesday. Today being Wednesday, I have to record this a few days because I actually have other work to do, but whatever. Time is a construct. Yeah, food's a thing. Food's a real thing. Like the making food a human right, i.e., you have the right to eat and be fed, basically requires governments to go, yeah, okay, well then we have to go and do that. That obviously isn't in line with how we produce food and how, more importantly, how we sell food. How we produce and sell food is terrible. It's absolutely, it's wasteful. It's entirely based on profit and not need, which is shit. And granted, I could offer you a deeper communist take on this. Don't have to. It's a pretty fucking easy one to go. Yeah, right to food. Interesting that the U.S. said no. Need to work on that one, people. And the last one that that one just popped up like literally before I started recording this. Super minor thing, but it's part of a larger picture, I guess. And again, to most of you, this shouldn't come as news. But we've spoken about the sort of atrocious fucking abortion laws being passed in Texas and other parts of the U.S. And obviously, governments in the U.S. and in the West generally don't work unless they're being paid by someone to do it. Turns out Pepsi, the company, has been the major donor to Republicans in Texas who forced through this abortion bill. Whatever. Fuck Pepsi and fuck Coca-Cola for all I care. Like, it's just another corporation. It could be AT&T or fucking Ford or anybody else for that matter. It doesn't really, that's not the point. The point being is that corporations like that, at that size, do exactly this. Like, irrespective of their greenwashing, their PR campaigns, their social media hilarity, this, that, and the other, it's always really important to keep that in mind. These corporations act not only just for their sake of their profit, but actively against the interests of us. Super important, and that's the only reason why I bring this up. I mean, for all I care, it doesn't. I have no interest in Pepsi or any of that shit, but it's just important to know that they are, like so many other companies, paying politicians to pass laws which are bullshit. Literal fucking bullshit. And that, needs to be, so boycott the fuckers. You should have done that millions of years ago anyway. But if you needed another reason, that's another good one. And that's all I got for today. I gotta say, let's see how this works out. I'm gonna upload this on YouTube and send this out on Friday. I hope nothing crazy happens in between, then otherwise I'll just have to write about it. And let me know how you feel about this format. Again, I can't promise I'll do this all the time because it's, it takes time and it's still a little awkward, and I'm realizing I'm turning into that old white dude speaking to people on the internet. Oof, struggling with that one. But here's that. Have a good week. Have a good weekend. Thanks for tuning in. I'm not going to say like and subscribe as they do on YouTube all the time. Fuck all that. Subscribe to the fucking newsletter. Get that. I'm sure, well, if you're getting this, you are. And that's that. Take it easy.